He's formerly a middle school principal in our district, so he gets both sides of the table. I told you earlier today that we would talk a little about the evaluation tool that we used, and I told you that new teachers, you'll have a couple extra standards. We do a little extra to support you through the process, and so that's what he's going to talk a little with you about today.
All right. Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. Great to have you guys all here first off. I know that new teacher orientation can be kind of an overwhelming experience for people. I've gone through 3 new teacher orientations essentially, started my career in City of St. Charles as a classroom teacher and spent 8 great years there, and then did another new teacher orientation in the Melville School District, spent a couple years as an assistant principal in Melville, and then obviously did my 3rd new orientation when I came to Francis Howell, and spent about 5 years as an assistant principal, 6 years as a head principal at Bryan Middle School. So where are you, Brian? I see you back there. Yeah. All right. And so spent about 6 years as a head principal, and this is, I'm starting my 2nd year as director of HR. So part of what we are going to talk about today is our teacher evaluation tool, and we're going to try to make this as fun as we can. I know, and I saw a lot of the demographics of the group as far as middle school, elementary, high school, first year, brand new. Tell me this, has anyone experienced with the knee evaluation system if you're coming from another district? Okay, perfect. So some of this might be a little bit repetitive, but in Francis Howell we focus on a few standards that you'll see across the board that kind of drive a lot of what we do. So why don't we go ahead and get started on some of those things. Let's start with the good news. You do not need to take notes. You will get all this material. Connie will have things available for you, and also you'll get your login for knee, and everything is available within the knee system. So you do not need to take notes. And then the other thing, I just want to reaffirm that in Francis Howell, we really believe that evaluation is about helping people get better. We want you to be the best that you can be, so that you impact kids the best way that you can. And that really is the focus of our evaluative tool. So for our learning objectives today, and you will, if you're not indoctrinated in learning objectives, you will be in Francis Howell. New teachers will know the system and how it works, know our evaluation criteria, and practice scoring observations. So towards the very end, we're going to watch some videos of some teachers actually teaching some class sessions, and you're going to score them. You're going to kind of go through what an administrator goes through, make selections on scores based upon some evaluation criteria, and then see how well you do. I want to show this. This will not happen in Francis Howell.
So that was my weekend, nothing special. What about you? You seem rather chipper for a Monday.
Today is a good day. It's my performance review.
Wait a minute. You're excited about the performance review?
My next meeting is a one-on-one. I have to deliver a performance review.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's with Matt.
Oh, I can see why you're so depressed.
Man, I'm stoked about this one. Because last time Melanie gave me kind of a bad review.
Last time I gave him an extremely negative review.
What exactly did she say?
You know, mumbo-jumbo manager speak.
I couldn't have been more clear.
Like needing a little touch-up here and there.
His appearance was sloppy, he was passive and unmotivated.
Maybe learn some more stuff.
And the quality of his work was completely substandard.
And we talked about my future.
I also said that I didn't see much of a future for him.
Dude, you have to read between the lines, but she was majorly hinting that I could go places.
I don't think he's gonna make it to the end of the year anyway.
With a little spit and polish, no big deal. So that's what I did. Got myself some spit and polish. Buddy, you're looking at Mr. Improved.
If anything, he's gotten worse. I don't know which is more objectionable, his social deficiencies or his technical incompetencies.
I mean, I busted my hump this last year. I even took some night classes at the community college.
I can see why you're so enthused about things.
It's more than that. I think I'll finally get that promotion I deserve. And believe me, with a new baby on the way, I could use all the cash I could get.
I'm putting Matt on probation. and that means no yearly bonus, but fortunately I hear his wife has a good job.
Especially with my wife losing her job and all.
Sorry to hear about that, mate. Tell you what, you give me a call after the review and we'll celebrate over lunch or something.
Yay.
Okay.
Cheerio.
Well, call me for lunch later. I have a feeling you're gonna need to take a break.
Well, Matt, are you ready?
You bet. Now, I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, I know. And maybe it's just nerves because my wife lost her job and all. But you'll see I deserve that promotion.
Promotion?
Yes. And I have you to thank. You know that little pep talk last time? And with being a new daddy and all. Anyway, I'm just so excited to hear what you have to say.
Facing a crucial conversation? Vital Smarts can help.
So absolutely not a part of our process. So our process, as you'll see as we kind of talk through some scenarios and situations, you will always know kind of how you're doing and be provided with some information towards growth. For those of you who maybe have been in teaching for a while, you know that DESE changed some requirements around evaluation a few years ago. But before that, and for some of our veteran teachers in our district, one of the things that you may still hear out there is the old evaluation system is compared to the new evaluation system. And in our old evaluation system, what typically happened was once a year, an administrator would come into that classroom, they'd sit down for 60 minutes, they'd type out a bunch of notes about everything that they saw, and then at the end of that, they'd write up an evaluation and they'd schedule a time to meet with the teacher. So when we think about our teacher contractual days, 169 days with students in the room, and I'm coming in once for 60 minutes. Would you talk at your tables a little bit about what is a disadvantage of that system? I'm going to pull us back together. Anybody want to share any disadvantages that they came up with that your group talked about? Anyone? Yes. Absolutely. So perfect point. We know, I mean, we're human beings. We have days that we're spot on and things go great. And we have days where things aren't great in our own personal lives and things don't go great in an observation. The other thing that we know is that at times we encourage teachers to take risks in the classroom. Try lessons that are out of the box. What if I walk in on one of those days where you're doing doing a lesson out of the box and it just doesn't go well? I mean, think about that. That would be very frustrating for a teacher. What else? Yes. Absolutely. So that one day, not that reflection of the other 168. Anything else? Yes. Yeah, a big lack of teacher growth. So where's the direction? Where's the guidance? Where's the focus? And what if I walked in on April 30th to do that evaluation? We have 15 days left of school. A lot of growth there for you. All right? And so although I think at first there was a little bit of resistance around change around evaluation, in the long run, it's really a good thing. It's about providing growth and opportunities and experience. So Missouri has come up with what we call the 7 essential principles of effective evaluation. And you can kind of take a look at these. Our knee scores are based on 7 levels, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I know when I think about teachers, I historically think about perfectionist, and everyone wants to be at a 7. Gotta be at a 7. Please know that it is possible, but it's very hard. And it's very hard to get 7s consistently because remember, administrators are coming in for short snippets of time. And so on one standard, you might be at a 7, and on another standard, you might be at a 5. And that's perfectly fine. That is okay. The other thing that I think sometimes stresses out people is number 4, the evidence of student learning and performance. And so we think a lot about, and we know as a state and as a federal government, we weigh heavy on our MAP test and state and national level test. A lot of your evidence of student learning will be created by your PLC. You will develop some strategic things that you're doing every day in the classroom, and then you'll show that growth from the students in there. And your principals will walk you through that process. It really is very, very harmless. Although that big state test is important, it's not what drives us every single day. So as I said, we chose an evaluation system called NEE. It's developed by the University of Missouri-Columbia. So they have some researchers there that we work with very frequently. And so you will see and hear about the Network for Effective Educator Effectiveness quite frequently, and that is our NEE system. NEE in a nutshell. So I think in Missouri there's around 547 school districts. 267 of them use the NEE evaluation tool. So there's a lot of data within their system, which is a good thing, so we can see a lot of comparative pieces. It meets all those 7 essential principles. It is an electronic tool. So in the old days, that principal would come in, script notes, and send you a paper copy. NEE is an electronic tool where the principal will type in some notes, score you, hit submit, and you will receive an email immediately from NEE showing what your results were. You'll then set up that follow-up conference with an administrator to kind of have some dialogue. Also, NEE gives us some comparisons by individual schools within our district, which is a good thing, but also districts across the state. And finally, they're obviously valid. Our administrators every year go through a training, so they are recertified, and they have to do well on these certifications. So one of the things that we're doing today, as I alluded to, is we're going to watch some videos. Our administrators do that every year to make sure they're in tune with what NEE says these master scores should be. So the goal of the NEE system, as I said, it's growth, growth, growth. And again, if everyone started out at a 7 on every single standard, there would really be no room for growth. So again, when you look at your scores, remember, it's always about getting better at what you do every single day. And it doesn't mean that if my first evaluation I scored at a 5 on a certain standard, and my next one I scored at a 4, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. That's not it at all. So we talk about the differences between a 4 and a 5, and maybe what you could have done differently. And a lot of those brainstorming things will come from you thinking to yourself, I wonder if I would have did this, what would the result have been? As a former teacher, one of the things I know is I would lay out lesson plans a week in advance. I'd try a lesson plan first hour, and oh my gosh, things did not go as I expected. And so I made adjustments on the fly. And if somebody came in second hour, my lesson was a little bit better second hour. And as I can honestly tell you, by 7th hour, hey, it was smooth sailing and things were great. And then I may have to go back and make some adjustments with that first hour the next day. You will never know how your kids are going to react to different lessons and structures that you teach until you let it unfold. So in Missouri, there are 9 standards and 38 indicators. So in our NEE system, you will see 38 indicators. DESE only has 36, but NEE subdivides a couple of indicators. You guys will be evaluated after your first year on 3 indicators. In your first year, all teachers new to the district or brand new will have 5 indicators that you will be scored on, okay? And the 2 additional ones kind of focus on classroom management, and things along those lines, just so that you can have some support if there's some areas of struggle. Again, we said that data is gathered. Scores range from 0 to 7. Administrators, and when you do your scoring here in a little bit, administrators are kind of taught to start at a 3, work your way up. Or if it doesn't meet the level of a 3, work their way down on that evaluation score. And then one of the things in Francis Howell is we focus on 3 standards that I'll show you. But if there's another standard or indicator within NEE that you need some support with, sometimes an administrator will add an individual indicator that isn't one of our 3 criteria. So these are the kind of the big categories, those 9 standards. If you look at the highlighted ones in red, we will focus this year on content knowledge, and that's going to be standard 1.2. Implementing our curriculum, which is 3.1. We're going to skip down to 7.4, which is using student data as you teach. And then when we look at that positive learning environment, that is something that all of you will be scored on as well, 5.2 and 5.2b. So the indicators that are being monitored, and we're going to just quickly take a look at those. 1.2, the teacher cognitively engages students in the subject. And so we're looking for kids that are actively learning. They are participating in the lessons as they unfold. They are not just kind of that sit and get instruction, but they are a part of it. They are uncovering. They are solving problems within that classroom structure. So really looking for cognitive engagement. 3.1 is more around implementing curriculum. And so I think in the old days when I started teaching, you know, the kind of proverbial joke was there was a curriculum guide and teachers would generally leave it on their shelf and it never opened until the very end of the year when it got moved or shuffled to another place. Your curriculum guides are very well developed here. A lot of people spend a lot of time creating those documents. A lot of teacher preparation goes into making those work. And that's what really guides the instruction that we say is going to happen for kids. And then the last one is kind of monitoring that effect of instruction. So what does the assessment look like? And that can be it can be a test. It can be a quiz, it can be exit cards, it can be just a check-in with one individual student or a check-in with small groups, just to see the kids are on the right track and they're learning. And then again, those bottom 2. Teachers managing time, space, transition, and activities. And then the last one, using effective discipline to kind of promote that classroom environment, that self-control within kids. So student achievement and in our NEE. So our classroom observations. So your principals will come in this year. For first year or any new teacher to the district, you're on what obviously you're non-tenured. You're on what we call a summative cycle. So they will come in for 10 minutes 6 times throughout the school year. Now you may see a principal come in the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th time, and that's okay. Our expectation for our principals is that it's a minimum of 6 times. And sometimes they'll stay 10 minutes, sometimes they'll stay 15, sometimes 20. Sometimes if they have the opportunity, they may stay the whole hour. So don't think anything of that. You'll see a lot of differences between the buildings, see a lot of differences between the administrators. Very rarely will they not score one of those 3 or 5 categories. There might be some times, though, that depending upon the lesson, it's not an observable score. If you ever get marked not observable, it's not a bad thing. It just means they didn't see it. What I always tell teachers is, if I've come in the 3rd and the 4th time and I'm marking the same thing, not observable, then we probably need to have a conversation about what we're not seeing and what we do need to see. So when you think about student learning, we still talk about the old bell curve. Sometimes we talk about the J curve. Do any of you know the J curve? We start here, we implement a new lesson, kids struggle a little bit, and then as they learn, that understanding goes up to that J curve. We look for a distribution and should see a distribution. If every teacher in the district on every standard was at a 7, we're probably not following our guidelines the way that we've been taught. So we should see a distribution of things. Remember, our evaluators have been trained, and then they're going to give you specific feedback. After every observation, you and that principal should find some time to meet. And depending upon your principal, that may look very different. Some principals are heavy driven in their calendar, so they're going to send you an email that says, I would like to meet with you from 9 to 9:15 to kind of talk about your evaluation. I know there are some principals that if it's your plan time, they'll just walk down during your plan time, pop their head in and say, hey, can we meet to talk about your evaluation? I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. It is vital, and this is one of the things that we stress to principals, it is vital that you have that follow-up conversation. And sometimes people will say, I scored all 5s. I'm perfectly fine. I don't need any direction. I'm good. No need to talk. In my mind, part of this is about building relationships with administrators and teachers. And it is valuable time every time to talk about how things went. Even if it's good, even if there's areas for growth. So please make sure that you find that time to make that commitment with your building principals. So again, our evaluations. Every teacher in this district is evaluated every single year. There are some districts out there that teachers kind of fall on a cycle. They'll be evaluated in year 1 and year 2, but year 3, they're not evaluated at all. In our district, it's every teacher every year. There's some differences that happen. So if you're a probationary teacher, non-tenured, in year 1, and we just made some changes, so this will be new for your buildings. In year 1, again, you'll be evaluated a minimum of 6 times. In years 2 through 5, you'll be evaluated a minimum of 5 times. When you hit that tenured cycle, so you become a tenured teacher in this district, your principals will put you on the cycle of formative or summative. When you reach that formative year, you might only be evaluated 2 times in a year. When you're a tenured teacher and you're on that summative cycle, you'll be evaluated 4 times. And what I would always tell you is, if you want your administrators to come see a lesson, holler at them. Come, hey, can you come watch this? I want some feedback on this. So they will absolutely do that as well. So just something to think about in how that kind of plays out. The one question I always get is, I just finished my non-tenured years. I'm a tenured teacher. It's my 6th year. Where will I be on the evaluation schedule? And the principals may put you back on a summative, or they may put you on a formative. Obviously, one of the things they want to do in the building is spread out those formatives and summatives so that they are able to meet teachers' needs. And if they had everyone on a summative, they're not going to be able to give teachers the feedback that they need to. Again, just some duration that we just talked about. Some caveats towards the bottom. All observations are unscheduled. So if you want an administrator to come in, holler at them, ask them. I know most of them are going to do that. They're probably not going to do all 5 or all 6 evaluations scheduled. The one thing is, they just want to see you teach. You know, in the old days, we always talked about the dog and pony show. You know, we would develop this great big lesson for that 1-hour observation. And we don't want that. We want to see what you do on an everyday basis. The other thing is, within the first month of school, all of you should be evaluated 2 times. So within that cycle, for all new teachers to the district, we ask that those administrators get in twice. And that way, if you're having some areas of struggle, they are there to support you right away. They're there to help you grow right away. And then just know that you'll see your administrators come in a lot of other times. I don't know if Connie has talked a little bit about walkthroughs, but administrators in this district will walk through your classrooms quite frequently. They might be looking at other strategies that you guys are doing at certain buildings, and they want to see how that's going. It's not uncommon in Francis Howell to have the superintendent, myself, the chief academic officer, the chief human resource officer just walk in your classroom. And I know that can be very intimidating, but they're just there to see what's going on in the classroom. They're there to offer support if support is needed. My very first evaluation ever, the principal's in the classroom, and I didn't know this stuff happened. The assistant superintendent for human resources walks in and sits down. Now you got to know my eyes were bugging out of my head like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, am I on somebody's bad list already? And it was just about him wanting to get into buildings just to see how things were going. And so you will see that a lot in Francis Howell as well. Those feedback conferences. So on your evaluation, you will get something submitted to you electronically, and it'll have scores. But there should also be some feedback. Hopefully your administrators are taking some time to say, loved what I saw here. An idea for growth might be this. And I know sometimes people don't like those ideas for growth because it's like, okay, did I do something wrong? Not always. We always look through different lenses to see what could we think about? What could we think about differently? We think about student teaching. Remember the feedback you got from your cooperating teacher. Sometimes you didn't even see the things they saw because you just didn't have the experience. And it's those kinds of things, those kind of notes that will be written in those evaluations. For all of you, by March 15th, you'll have your evaluation cycle completed, and you'll have what we call a summative conference. So that principal will sit down with you. They'll review your scores for the entire year, and they will write some nice notes about the things that you did in class, and they might even put down for future growth, these are some things we're thinking about. So you might see the full gamut of those kinds of comments in that summative evaluation. When you reach that level of being tenured and we're in those formative years, there is no end of year meeting with those principals. There's no documentation that goes into your file. The system automatically continues to calculate the data over the 3-year cycle of time. So again, 2 of the 6 within the first month, 5 indicators for you all, 3 to 5 minute mini conference afterwards. And again, I can't stress enough, make that happen. If your administrator doesn't seek you out, seek them out. Let's sit down and talk. It's all about process. It's all about building relationships. And then again, a summative conference. And at that summative conference, you will sign off on your evaluation, and then they just submit that to HR, and you will then start laying plans and foundations for the following year of growth. So again, growth model. Our expectation is coach you, not catch you. Again, as somebody indicated earlier, there are times in 169 days, there are times when you risk take and things don't go quite the way you expected them to. So again, we look to coach. We look for that authentic distribution. We should see a variety of scores within people. We shouldn't see 7s on everybody for every single lesson. It's not authentic. It's not the real world. Our administrators were just retrained over the summer. And then your building principals will introduce you to something called EdHub. And EdHub is kind of tied in with NEE. It's a resource for teachers and administrators to get ideas around certain standards, to watch videos, to get some ideas about how to grow. So it really just is a resource tool that you can use. And then the other thing I want to direct you to is we do have a teacher evaluation handbook, and you will learn about something called HowlNet, which is where all of our documents are held. And that teacher evaluation handbook is within HowlNet. It'll give you some very descriptive information about teacher evaluation. Any questions about some of the nuts and the bolts? Great. Now that I have you all asleep, we're going to transition to some additional videos. So this is how I know if you've never seen this video, this is how I know you all were recruited this year.
Teaching Center is brought to you by BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Hello and welcome to Teaching Center. I'm Boyd Maxwell with today's top stories from the exciting world of teaching.
And I'm Perry Schmidt. Well, now we know. The long-awaited announcement by star English teacher Ruby Roof has sent teaching fans across the nation into a frenzy.
I've enjoyed my time in Ohio very much, but I'm pleased to announce that I'm taking my talents back to New York City. Thank you very much.
Apparently, PS 431 has made Ruby an offer she couldn't refuse. $80 million guaranteed over 6 years, with another $40 million in incentives based on test scores. This salary puts her right up there with Rockridge Elementary's Katie Hope and William Wu out of Colgate Magnet.
All right, let's take a look at yesterday's high school teacher draft from Radio City Music Hall, where Central Rapids High, recipient of the worst test scores last semester, made the first pick. That was no surprise to anyone.
With the first pick, Central Rapids High takes calculus teacher Mike Yost from Tulsa Teachers College.
And just like that, you're a millionaire. Mike Yost is an unbelievable story. His father living from paycheck to paycheck as a humble pro football player. Kid was a natural mathlete.
You know he's gonna buy his mama a house.
Oh, you know this.
Oh, there's no way around that. You owe your mom.
Today's highlight of the day is brought to you by the 100% Black Angus Beef Thick Burger on a fresh-baked bun from Carl's Jr. and Hardee's.
Now it's time for the highlight of the day.
Star history teacher Ashley Ferguson has been running up them test scores over at Vince Clorco High.
Okay.
Woo!
Confederate forces fired first. Can anyone tell me where this battle took place?
Now, look at this. She looks left, then right, looks past the students with their arms up in the air, spots Max near the back, sees that even though his hand isn't up, he's engaged.
Max?
It was Fort Sumter.
That's right.
Oh, come on, see what she did there? She's bringing an introvert into the discussion, y'all. That's a Teacher of the Year play right there.
That's right, Boyd. You know, the confidence gained by Max by answering that question correctly will enhance his performance throughout the rest of the year.
No doubt. Coming up after the break, Mayfield Prep trades French teacher Janine Lowe to Skyline High for a head librarian and 2 lunch ladies to be named later.
And we'll get the inside scoop on the impending teacher strike that could cripple the season.
Next up on Teaching Center. Woo!
Strength courses through me. I am velocity. I am power. I am a leader, a believer. I am the force that guides. I am the gateway to what is possible, the path to the future. I am the future.
The all-new 2015 6 Series is here. Meet the new teacher's pet.
So I wish we could say we had those kind of salaries, and I wish we could say those were our recruiting tools. I will guarantee you we will not trade you for anybody mid-year, so you'll be with us. But it's just kind of a funny parody about what's out there and perceptions. I don't know that any of you will be driving an M series after your first year on your salary, but maybe. Good luck. So we're going to transition to practicing some observations. So these are teachers, not in our district, but across the state that have volunteered to be recorded. And I want you guys to take a look and get the perceptions of what you see unfolding in the classrooms. So on your desk, I believe under an orange piece of paper, everyone should get a form that looks like this. And on one side, it talks about indicator 1.2. And on the other side, it talks about indicator 7.4. One of the things that administrators and teachers One of the things that they always ask for is Indicator 3.1, which is around our curriculum. The difficulty we have in doing scoring and videos around 3.1 is every district's curriculum is different. So our discussions today are going to focus on 1.2 and 7.4. And I tried to include some videos from different levels, because one of the other things I always hear is, oh, that's a high school level. I'm a first grade teacher. My situation is very different, or vice versa. I'm a first grade teacher. Oh, those high school people, they can't manipulate 23 6-year-olds at one time like I can. So we'll give you a variety of experiences so that you can kind of take a look at what that score looks like. If you would, we're going to start out on the 1.2 side. And what I just want you to do is look at the 0, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And just very quickly take a look through those. Remember that this is dealing with cognitive engagement. And look at the differences between the scores. So when we see a 1, it uses that key phrase seldom. When we look at a 3, it talks about occasionally, but then it also talks about half of the time or with fewer than half of the students. And then when we get to 5, it's more than half the time or more than half the students. And then within there, you'll see some off to the right, you will see some pointed things to look for. And those pointed things are the things that your administrators will look for when they're in your classroom. Okay? So let's practice with 1.2. We're going to start out with a 6th grade lesson. This is language arts. And let's watch this teacher.
Please don't kick the table. Okay? Remember I told you the story yesterday about my sister and I currently having a conflict about this painting that our mom created. All right? Well, I've made a sample plot diagram because what I've been finding out in my other classes is that people get to here and they're like, what do we do now? So I made this for you so you could see what you do there. If we could look at the bottom, the whole thing won't fit on here. All right. Remember that the exposition requires you to provide background information. Go ahead. Huh? You can sit at that table and trace it on construction paper. Use yellow to start with. The exposition requires you to give background information. So here's my background information. My sister Christina and I are 14 years apart in age. I always thought that she got everything she wanted because she was the baby. The setting is our mom's home. I'm going to make a note to myself to describe the painting and describe the living room. I also need to provide the reader with information about why we have a conflict. So I am going to write about our mom passing away a year ago, and we've arrived at a place where we're comfortable dividing up her belongings, but this one painting is a source of conflict.
So you're listening to the teacher and you're watching those kids.
So,
what do you see in that realm?
That would be the background, and that's what will practically take up a whole first page. Now, I'm here. How does the story start? Well, I might start out with a little bit of dialogue. Maybe I arrive at my mom's home. Hey, sis, I said as I trudged up the steep driveway because it's on a mountain. Okay? And so I might have some dialogue here. We sit down at the dinner table and begin an argument about the reasons each of us deserves to have that painting. Why she thinks she deserves it and why I think I deserve it. So again, I'm telling a story but injecting dialogue. Next, we reach a stalemate. That means we haven't agreed on anything. We're both standing firm in our position of who's going to get the painting. We each go to our rooms. Here, I decide to box up Mom's clothes, and I discover a box in one of the dresser drawers. I find a necklace in the drawer and decide to offer it to Tina in place of the painting. Here's the climax. Tina accepts the necklace. The story has just changed course. Now, anytime you have a climax of a story, something has to launch it. What launched Tina accepting the necklace? How did we get to this?
Look at all those hands.
Garrison. I found it in the drawer. Correct. Okay? Let me give you another example.
All right, let's
We have
stop
two
there on
football
this
teams.
video.
One football team, Team A, has...
So, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take a look at your scoring guide. And I realize, as the administrator, you weren't in there for a full 10 minutes. But what's your general sense? Take a look at that scoring guide. Remember what we talked about. Administrators are going to start at the 3. And they're either going to work their way up or down, looking at some of that criteria. Half, the time, more than half, the students. That's the criteria that they're looking at. So take a moment, look at that criteria, and let me know in just a second where you think that person would fall. I think if you want to, and I didn't direct you to do this, but certainly I would say this is a great strategy. You can use a face partner or a shoulder partner to kind of talk through this process. Oh, I know my strategies. You can use your partner to kind of have some conversation and see if you scored commonly. All right, I'm going to bring you back together in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There's another strategy you can use in your classroom. All right, so anybody want to volunteer? What did you think? Anybody come up with a score? Who, yeah. And that's good. So you found something that you tried to see her get kids involved in. Okay. Very good. Anybody else? Anybody score 0? Anybody score 2? Okay. Anybody score 1? Okay, so most of us. Do I need to go to 7? Anyone? All right, so we're all on the same page. So this is pretty consistent with what your administrators are going to look for in your classroom. And what NE does in their training is they have established what they consider a master score. So if you gave it a 1, you're right on with NE. You're 1 quarter through your recertification to become an administrator in this district. I'm kidding. All right. But there's some reasons why it wasn't a 0. And as she shared, there was a little bit of engagement. You did see the one hand that went up. One of the hard things is, you know that sometimes kids are auditorily listening, but she didn't really, throughout that 5 minutes we watched, didn't get kids involved a whole lot until we saw that one last snippet. She finally asked a question. Didn't do a whole lot of check-ins to see if they were making any progress. Did the kids seem very particularly engaged in the topic? All right. And so as creative as we can be around our lessons, we have to be thinking about, is this a subject or a topic that's going to get kids creatively engaged in what I'm doing? And then number 2, why not a 2? Not a whole lot of cognitive engagement. And I will tell you, Francis Howell is a great place. We have great kids, we have great families, and we have what's marked up here. We have compliant kids. We have a lot of kids that do the right thing every day because they're taught, go to school, listen to the teacher, follow directions, behave, close your mouth, talk when you're supposed to. So you'll see a lot of compliance. But one of the things that we want to get to are those high levels of engagement for kids. So you know they're learning and you know they're understanding. Great job on that first one. Let's try another one. We're going to shift to second grade, and we're going to shift to math. We're going to continue to look at indicator 1.2.
She took 2 stamps away in her mind. She crossed out 2 stamps. Cross out 2 stamps in your mind. How many stamps are left? 4. Why did she do that? Why did she take 2 stamps away in her mind? Why did she do that? Turn to your neighbor. Why would she take 2 stamps away? Turn to your neighbor. Short hair goes first. Tell her why. Tell them why.
So honestly, look at all the strategies that he's using to get kids involved. Short hair goes first. Neighbor, partners, everything to get kids talking.
She took away 2 because then, what happens is,
Long hair. Tell him.
Although I know it's hard for you, listen to the talk. It's around the subject. They're sharing, they're talking.
There's Susan. She took 2.
Where's that teacher? Monitoring that room, walking around that room. An administrator would also be scoring 7.4 here on the assessment piece. He's checking in with kids to understand their level of learning, guide them, give them support.
For 6. Brazil. How many does she have left? How many stamps does she have left on the picture? 4. Which stands for what?
plus that number
Is it actually 4 stamps?
and then minus that 2 of that number equals the answer of the
Why
number.
were you saying yes? Can you tell them why it's not 4, please? Okay. Hey, give me 5. Back here, our boys back here, we're having a little bit of trouble. Okay? But then they figured it out. Who can tell me why Elizabeth crossed out 2 stamps in her mind? Why?
Because plus the 3 times 6 equals 18 equals that number, and you have to minus 6 from that number, and she minus 2 because it equals the net answer to the number. And the number that's the answer.
I think I know what you're saying. You missed a little bit from that explanation. Okay? You didn't tell me how much the 2 stamps equaled. How much did the 2 stamps equal? That she took away.
12.
Hold on. Let's think about where did you get 20 from? Wait, we said 2 stamps. Where did you get 20?
Got a dancer in the front of the room there.
2 plus
Yeah, but where? So you just added those two stamps to 18? Okay, how much are these stamps worth?
3.
So what's 3 and 3?
6.
Do you see now why she took 2 stamps away? Okay. Here and here. And what is she left with? How many stamps?
4.
She's left with 4, okay. And Antonio, did 4 stamps actually equal 4?
No.
No. What did it equal? Do you remember?
6.
You told Jonathan earlier.
12.
12. So 18.
All right, so let's cut this one a little bit short as well. Would you please, with your shoulder partner or face partner, have some conversation about how would you score this observation? Connie, Jeremy got me started about 10 minutes late, didn't he? All right, I'm going to bring you back. So tell me, raise your hand. Zeros? Anybody score that a 0? Any 1s? 2s? 3s? 4s? 5s? Okay, so we see a lot of 5s. How about 6s? We see some 6s. Do we see anybody score 7? Anybody perfect score? Not to alienate you. So the master score from Nee was a 5. And why not a 4? And although you didn't see this, it's hard to see, those kids were using clickers in the class to give some answers on that smartboard. More than half of the students were engaged. So when he did the shoulder partner activity, did you see all the kids? I mean, they were working. They were talking. So we had more than half. Why not a 6? Because he took some time, and you're going to have to do this. Don't get me wrong. This is where people get hung up. There are times where you're going to talk to one kid. That happens in the classroom. That's why we talk about that distribution of scores. But he took some time. So when he takes that time, what did you see happen to the other kids? They kind of fell away. And I heard some people say he was better at the beginning than he was later. Okay? That happens in the classroom. That's a normal part of the everyday life of a teacher. And then the other thing, and this will happen to every single one of you as well. We know that we are not giving every one of you the equal level learner. Everyone who knows the same thing at the same time. So you're going to have kids that are those quick starts that catch on very quickly. They know the answer right away. You're going to have some that struggle a little bit. And so the teacher's going to go guide those people. So be thinking, is there something that I can do if a kid finishes quickly? Can there be something else, a simple question that they can transition to that's in the same line? Okay? So that's why Nee looked at a 5. All right. I want to try at least one of a 7.4. And again, that's on the other side of your sheet. And we're talking about monitoring the effect of that learning. So take a look real quickly at those. So when we talk about the differences, so we are seldom conducting formative on-the-spot assessments for either individuals or the whole class. You see those terms again, half, more than half. Once we get up into that 3 range and 5 range, assessment for the whole class and individuals more than half the time. And then you see once you get to that 7, almost always on the spot for the whole class. And making corrective action when there's some struggles. So let's take a quick look at a video here. Sorry, Connie. I promise you I will not go past 11, maybe. All right.
It's not just one sentence for support as it's presented here in step number 9, okay? What it's basically saying is that's the order you should follow, okay? You start with topic sentence, you have your support, you have your commentary. If you have another piece of support, then it goes there, and then commentary after that. Basically, for every piece of support you have some commentary to link it back to the claim, okay? So be mindful of that format. That's what you're going to want to use as you go through today. So how are we going to write these body paragraphs? Let's look at our opening paragraph again. We know that our first body paragraph is going to be focused on The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. The other body paragraph is going to be focused on our own personal experience with failing to make the soccer team. And you might remember, because we failed to make the soccer team, we discovered a passion for basketball and therefore realized we had a talent in that and actually enjoy basketball even more now. Right? That's basically the premise of it. And so we're all going to pretend, I want all of you to pretend that that is your personal experience. That happened to you, okay? Because that's the perspective from which we're going to be writing that paragraph. You have to pretend it's you, okay, for the purposes of this class essay. Now, we're going to split this in half. Since we have 2 paragraphs to write and we have 6 teams in here, what we're going to do is split them into 3 groups. 3 groups are going to be doing one paragraph and 3 groups are going to be doing the other paragraph. And you're going to be working together and doing this in basically, it's going to be kind of like an all-right round robin. So everybody needs a sheet of paper. Make sure you have a sheet of paper out. Every individual, not one per team, I mean one per each individual person. Okay, and so as you're getting that paper out, this is going to be very simple, right? Whatever your team's assigned paragraph is, you are going to discuss it. You're going to decide what your topic sentence is going to be, and everybody is going to write that exact same topic sentence. You're going to decide on the next sentence. Everybody's going to write it. The next sentence, everybody's going to write it. So basically, every person on your team is going to have the exact same paragraph by the time you're done. But you are going to be working as a team to come to a consensus as to what exactly is going to be in that paragraph. Okay? How are you going to order the sentences? What word choice are you going to use? What details are you going to use? How are you going to link it back with commentary? That's going to be up to you as a team to decide. Now, the traditional round-robin format would mean that we would go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and keep going around in a circle. I'll give you permission to break that cycle if you want. If you want to stick with that cycle, if you really want to do, okay, first person does the first sentence and, go around like that, then feel free. That's fine. I don't mind that. But I know sometimes, maybe person number 1 doesn't have the greatest topic sentence in mind, but maybe person number 4 does. Well, break the cycle. Just say it out loud and everybody write it down. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do then first is I'm going to take volunteers. Who wants to do the Hunger Games paragraph? 1, 2, 3. Those are the first 3 that I saw. So 1, 2, 3. You 3 are going to be doing the Hunger Games paragraph. And then 1, 2, 3. You guys are going to be doing the personal experience paragraph. Okay? Let's get our details in order.
Let's move a little forward and see if we see any changes.
Every single person on your team should have the completed paragraph. I'm going to need 1 person to volunteer to put their team name up at the top and then submit the paragraph to me. At that point, I'm going to take the 3 paragraphs for each body paragraph, and I'm going to kind of synthesize them all together using bits and pieces of each of your paragraphs, essentially. Okay? So that's how it's going to work. Are there any questions? Seemed to take first period about somewhere in the 15-minute range from start to finish. So we'll see if we can't shoot for that. I would love to have these turned in as soon as you can possibly
Let's
finish
fast
them.
forward a little
Just
further.
Which one are we going to use? The fathers.
So now our kids are working.
Passed away from the mines, and then took over.
Let's check in with our teacher. Where's he at?
Just remember to focus on the basic idea of adversity bringing out talents. Adversity bringing out talents. That's the point. Adversity bringing out talents.
All right, so we may not have a full
Remember, those of you doing the
representation,
Hunger
but
Games,
hopefully
it's
we have a
coming
good
right after
idea.
this paragraph, so make
Let's
it
turn to
quick.
your shoulder partner, and how would you score this video? What? Are you taking over after me? Yeah. All right. Let's pull you back together. Any zeros? Raise your hand. Zeros? Okay. How about ones? Several ones. How about twos? Okay. Any threes? Some threes. That's okay. Any fours or higher? Okay, so here's what Nee says. Nee said the master score was a 1. Why not a 0? Because the teacher did ask questions. But what did you notice those questions were a lot about? Was it about learning? What was the focus of all the questions? Just like the directions, like, okay, did you understand what I mean? Do you understand what I mean? Do you understand what I mean? Did you get this? Did you get this? It wasn't about the learning itself. And so that's why we didn't arise to that level of a 2. All right? So I feel like there's going to be a hook that comes out here in just a second, so I'm going to be pulled away. So just in conclusion, I just want to remind you, again, it's a growth model. We expect everyone to, at times, when you're risk-taking, there's going to be things that don't go the way that you intended them to. Again, just remember what this experience was like. These could be very good teachers, and this could have been one of those days. So just remember that as you enter. And again, I want to just welcome you to Francis Howell, tell you what a wonderful place this is. I am sure you will all have a great school years. You have great buildings, great leadership teams in those buildings. And once again, just want to welcome you. Thank you for being so attentive and participating. I appreciate your time.